Good morning friends and welcome back to NPTEL online lectures on public speaking. In the previous lecture, we talked about the role of personality in public speaking. My dear friends, public speaking only comprises two words, but it is actually a vast world where there are so many requirements. And now we are going to talk about another requirement, and that requirement is technology. The question that may crop up in your minds is, does technology also play a role in public speaking? And you have the answers. For the last 2 years, with the advent of COVID-19, everyone might have realized the role that technology has played in allowing the world not to stop, but to continue, thanks to technology. And in every field, whether it is education, administration, medical science, health issues, politics, fine, poetics, in every field, my dear friends, technology has prompted humans to make life smooth despite all the difficulties that came our way. And that is why I have titled this lecture as Use of Technology in Public Speaking. Those many of you who are students and registered with this course might have really realized the worth of technology in providing them the opportunities even when the physical classrooms were not in progress, yet the classes were going on. Students were not on the campus, yet the courses were going on, examinations were held, results were declared. Offices also seemed to run, and there came to be a new terminology, work from home, thanks to technology. So, technology is very important, but we shall see today how we can very efficiently make use of technology in public speaking. Before we go to have a sort of detailed discussion on technology, let us have a sort of background how technology came to its being, what was actually the advent of technology and how it came in public speaking. Most of you might have been reading that in order to make speeches or presentations in earlier days, people had to go to different distant places either to hear or to deliver, fine. Now technology has brought a sort of ease. It was actually in 1400 where print age started, thanks to William Caxton, fine. So around mid 1400 it was actually a revolution that was created among intellectuals, and this generated larger amount of data for thought, speech and action. Afterwards, as time progressed and new devices also came to be developed, in the late 19th century, wireless means of transmission came into effect. Now, children of today might not believe that in earlier days, even many of us had to go to the library just to read newspapers, fine. But now everything is available on either your mobile phone or your laptop or on any other gadgets that are around you. This is actually a technology innovation, my dear friends. Earlier, whenever we had an urgent message to be passed, we had to send a telegram. Modern day children will not understand what is a telegram. Fine. Even children who are born in the 21st century, they might often be embarrassed to know that people used to write their messages when they used to go for a telephone call. So, telegraphs, telephones, radios and later television broadcast enable for massive transmission of messages. Of course, we have come a long way. We are living in an age of internet. It is a digital world and there has been a lot of revolutions even in this digital world. Live broadcast of messages, as you might have seen when you were even in a remote corner. I was delivering my lecture from my own room and I was engaging 200 and 300 of my students. And like me, other colleagues of mine were also doing the same. Fine. So, and this of course had some advantages, but not without some disadvantages as well. So, live broadcast of messages through internet stream provided seamless connection for students, staff members and almost every other person, leading to a new normal. Actually, there was an aura that by the time this new normal comes, let us actually visualize that this is actually going to be the mantra in the days to come. Teachers were delivering their talks and people were working even from their homes. Nothing stopped, my dear friend, nothing stopped. But then you might be thinking that even for a public speaking, if technology is important, why we need to go and give a physical talk in the physical form? Actually, in public speaking, one's own voice is the preliminary tool which actually can be supplemented for enhancements of messages effect. Now, imagine when you are watching news on any of the channels, you might find the news anchor being so spontaneous, so live, so organized. How? Because of technology, isn't it? Otherwise, as flesh and blood, all of us are bound to commit mistakes. The sort of talk that I am delivering, it is also only with the help of technology. And many of my good friends, they are behind the curtain who are actually making all my talks beautiful, enhanced, qualitative, fine, and it appears as if they are actually serving things in such a nice manner. It appears everything to be so natural. Fine. Even things which appear to be natural, behind that also technology has a role to play. However, the strength of message, because as people we believe that the strength of message is more important than the strength of channel. The talks that you are listening to, fine, do you realize how much of pains are involved behind the pleasure that you are deriving even from a remote corner of the world? But of late, heavy dependence, heavy reliance on technological aid have lent to distraction at times and even distortion to cause and effect. As a teacher, I have also come across such impediments when I find my students in a classroom with their avatars and not their real selves. So, but technology enables me to continue my talk and they are visualizing that my talk is going on, and in between what happens, perhaps that can only be understood when I take the feedback, when instantly I put a question and come to know that they are not they, I may be myself. A good public speaker, my dear friend, must actually know how to make efficient use of technology in order to create a right balance on when to use technology and when to keep it aside. Otherwise, life would become quite monotonous, mechanical, dull, drab, dreary, isn't it? So, one has to be conversant with the technological aids, because as I have been saying, technology is only a slave. Fine. Of course, these technological tools are at my aid. I am using them to make myself being better heard, being listened to, and in a way to produce a better impact upon my audience, my crowd. But technology, after all, is a slave, and man is the master of all technology. So, in public speaking, a variety of tools are employed by a speaker, fine, in order to channelize and also to communicate. Many of you might be conversant with these technical gadgets. Microphone, you might see I am wearing a microphone and my voice is going very clear, very transparent. If there are at times certain impediments, they are cured by people who are in and around, who are behind this to make or to render it an enhanced quality. Then speakers, fine. So, a person when he speaks in his own tempo, in his own voice, may not be able to reach those people when he is addressing a crowd of 600 or 1000 people, and that is why speakers, but speakers, microphones are very sensitive. That is why even a little bit of hesitation, even a little bit of nasal sounds, even a little bit of anguish, even a little bit of muddled sound, that actually are grabbed by all these sensitive machines tools. Teleprompter, you might have already seen, as I told you earlier, that the news readers very fluently reading the news, and you are visualizing that everything is being live and everything is so spontaneous. Actually, behind it are the teleprompters which actually allow them to read the messages or the news, but in order to do that also one has to make a lot of practice as to how much amount of time should be given to a particular line, to a particular phrase, to a particular clause, how much of speed, how much of volume, how much of pause and how much of silence are to be provided, my dear friends. Presentation timer. When you are supposed to give a presentation and there are time limitations, you can find that there is a presentation timer which can time and again tell you as to when you are going to conclude. Nowadays, it has actually become quite commonplace to let speakers even being at a remote distance, and we are hearing. There is a very favorite talk, Man Ki Baat, by our present Prime Minister, and many people are often either glued to their radio or they are glued to their TV screens, and the minister or the leader or the speaker is speaking from a distance, fine. And sometimes in villages where they do not have these facilities, there are some community centers where with the help of the screens and with the help of the projectors, all these things are being presented and being conveyed. Do technology not play an important role in public speaking? Nowadays, there have also been several apps. Earlier, we used to have meetings in a physical setting. People used to come, sit. The agenda used to be served, announced. Talks used to be on, countered, fine. Now, what is happening? And during these 2 years, we have already developed, we have actually been habituated not only to address the gathering through several apps, but we are having meetings, we are having classes, we are having PhD vivas, even we are having examinations, my dear friends. Even we are also having conferences, thanks to several apps like Zoom, like WebEx, Google Meet, MS Teams, and many more. But then, in order to show your expertise in all these, you actually need to exercise a lot of caution. Nowadays, you have teleprompter apps, you have podcasts where digitally something can be recorded to be downloaded with the help of internet, and they can be in a series. I have seen many people listening to stories, many people narrating their stories on podcasts, and they are also having lots of audiences. People are actually eager enough to listen to what happened. So, there has been completely a sea change in the world of communication, in the world of public speaking. There are also several apps through which you can also practice your own speeches, your own presentations. You can also see where your voice is not coming clear, where you need to be more obvious, where you need to be more transparent. Even there are certain apps which can also regulate your pronunciation, my dear friend. Of course, those who are actually doing their researches with the help of word processing and all, sometimes or the other, whenever they find their sentences stuck, Grammarly comes to their help. How is this possible, my dear friend? It is only because of the technological aids, technological apps. Classrooms have also become alive, but if you compare it to the physical way, of course, you will have a different sort of realization as we have had. But now, in classrooms also technology can be introduced. Earlier it was also introduced, but now even when there is going to be an offline class, you will find a sort of demand will come, and the teachers have also realized that let there be a sort of blended learning. So, the use of technology can enhance student learning experience, provided the students show their interest in it. Technology can also foster students for auditory and visual learning. All those people who are novices in terms of delivering speeches, all those who find a lot of hesitation and all, they can make use of certain apps to practice, to learn, so that next time when they go for a presentation or a talk or for a speech or for whatsoever, they can find themselves in a better condition, they can be very much confident. Integration of simple and effective technologies like the one that most of you might have been putting into practice, you are bringing PPT, which actually helps you save your time and to provide more information in less amount of time. At this juncture, let me also narrate an experience that when these online classes started, teachers had to make a lot of effort, and the 2-hour lecture offline could have been done just in 1 hour or 40 minutes. So, how was this finally done? This was only done because of the help of technology. Many demonstrations, many clips, even somebody who is teaching a course like cinema, somebody who is teaching a course in management, somebody who is teaching a course in science can bring all sorts of clips and charts and whatsoever and can show them live in order to augment the students' interest in that topic or in that content. Nowadays, apps like MS Teams and WebEx, they also provide that one can give their students the assignments, and one can also provide the time when the assignments can be submitted. And then there are many apps which also allow us to make questions in the form of objective ones with their answers given, and then the manual labor that we used to put in earlier days, that has finally come to be reduced, and we can save more time for doing some other work. Technology incorporates diverse learning styles. Why? Nowadays, is it not very feasible that you are listening to TED Talks, you are listening to the lectures on Coursera? There are so many, my dear friends. Technology has also come to provide us a sort of collaboration. One can nowadays be at one place and one can listen to or one can deliver to, even when one's loyalties are with one profession, one can take on some other assignments as well, and that is only possible because of technology. If we think of future, my dear friends, it is technology that is actually prompting and preparing us for the future, because in the days to come you cannot think of a classroom devoid of technology, a lecture devoid of technology, and you know, all these have also helped so many difficulties being overcome. One such is time, the other is the cost as well. Many of you might realize that in order to attend one meeting, one had to spend thousands and thousands of money to go and join it in the offline mode. But now, because of the technology, meetings can be organized online. Because of video conferencing, so many things can be at our disposal without the hindrances of space, without the hindrances of geographical difficulties, and that is why life has become very beautiful, my dear friends. Nowadays, in meetings also technology is being used, and how? Imagine you are discussing a particular issue and you are to support it with some evidential proof and whatsoever. So, with the help of video conferencing systems, which is actually a sort of efficient tool, it can actually annex you to the far off places. Because of screen sharing, one person delivering a talk from a distance can share one's screen, and you can find this sort of enjoyment as if you were listening to or watching the presentation live, my dear friend. Nowadays, there have been several interactive whiteboards also, and they can also allow us to have brainstorming sessions even during presentations. Imagine you are providing a technical proposal and the audience members actually want to know the nitty-gritty of everything. So, naturally comes to you for your help the whiteboard. Audience participation tools have also become very helpful in live polling, meaningful conversations, my dear friend. The day is not far when I think, of course, in today's scenario also, even when things are getting better, many of the students often ask for online presentations. Fine. Why? The answer is with them only, whether it is actually going to save their time or it is going to make their task easier. So, social media engagement, which is actually on the top of many youngsters' minds, with the help of social media, I am reminded of one friend telling me that nowadays there is no privacy. Fine. One can always know what one is doing thanks to several apps, thanks to one's status. One can always find somebody about his location, about his deeds, about his assignments whatsoever. So, social media engagement also includes large screen LED display, even for marketing, for the launching of a product, for the promotion of a particular new tool, a new policy. Nowadays, now things have become so easier for everyone that it appears as if we are living in an age where perhaps, as I said, technology is a slave, but we are being enslaved, my dear friend. We are being enslaved. fine. So, you can understand what I am trying to employ with this. Even several events are being live telecast nowadays. Most of your houses might be a budge with IPL, isn't it? And not only this, many of your friends have developed such a sort of obsession that even when the matches are over, even after weeks, they want to go back to see the recorded matches, fine. So, technology has entered our lives in such a manner that we have very less amount of time. One must have a responsive website. People are nowadays blogging, people are having their own websites, fine. Apps can also be built to cater to the queries and ease of the intended audience. Nowadays, you might find that if you are applying for a position somewhere, or if you are applying for an admission somewhere, I mean, we have seen in several government organizations as well that even when you are going to book a ticket, always every now and then you go to the railway website. So, this I will come to help you and say, how can I help you? Thanks to technology, my dear friends. Social media has a great accessibility, and it is also being used for publicity, my dear friends. Earlier, huge rallies, no, that would entail not only a lot of cost, lot of time, but that was also in a way detrimental. But now channels are also being used for publicity, even for election venues, even for election rallies, even for the promotion of a particular party. All these things are being done thanks to technology. Virtual experiences have been trending, and it has actually attracted a lot of attention even from the audience members. Now, when you are using technology, one has actually to be aware of how the light settings also can play a very significant role in changing the mood of the audience. You might have realized if you are watching some plays or some episodes or whatsoever, how with the help of technology you are converting a pitiable situation or a miserable condition into a sort of misery, or you can create a laughable situation. With the help of technology you can create all these things. Nowadays, even when people greet others with flowers, there are actually with the help of artificial intelligence, flowers always appear to be fresh, fine. Flowers do not fade, fine. So, polls and surveys we have always been saying that they also can provide a lot of help, and all these are actually the cases of public speaking. But now, does technology not have the other side? Of course, technology has got its other side. Many of us often make a misuse of it. Many of us even willingly get so much obsessed that the real tasks often lie unfinished. Technology can hamper the speech output of the public speaker. No much imagination, because you believe that whatever you have prepared with the help of the teleprompter or whatsoever, you will speak whatever is written, whatever is the text. You cannot go beyond, you cannot go below, you cannot go behind, you cannot go ahead, you cannot leave any room for imagination. But when there used to be a sort of physical gathering, one look at the audience stimulated you like anything, and the same was expected from the audience. When one looked at a huge rally, one could find the sort of tempo one's voice had. But with excessive use of technology, we find that either at times, because not everyone is facilitated with all sorts of technical aids, or even if technical connections are there, there are glitches. Glitches have become a part of our lives. Sometimes there are noises in and between, fine, the medium. So, the noise in the medium creates a sort of distraction. So, the channel at times can become a barrier for effective listening, isn't it? Sometimes voices are muddled, fine. sometimes there are certain other obstructions as well, the connectivity is not fine. Now, many old malfunctioning hardware at times takes a lot of time, and in the world of technology things change so fast that by the time one comes to get trained, the new thing comes. Naturally, we actually have to face a lot of difficulty. It can also help, it can also make us falter our speech, and it can result in a sort of blurred noises. At times the talk that you gave and the talk which was recorded can actually come to haunt you because of the glitches in some way or the other might have obstructed, and you can think of how much of labor, how much of sense was put to it, and finally you feel yourself quite bewildered. Wireless communication at times can become very unstable, either because of lower bandwidth, sometimes because of power cuts, sometimes because of the lack of backup support and all, fine. And excessive use of audio visuals should be checked. At times when a man goes prepared, sometimes we have, you also might have found that you go prepared, and because of some of the glitches in technology, now the entire level that you had put into, by the time you go to speak, major portion of your content is gone. So, it is always better to check the gadgets well ahead of your talk or presentation. The speaker should talk for the larger part and not for the material, because my dear friends, technology has a limitation. So, at your back always there is time, and I am reminded of one very beautiful line, but at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. So, every now and then this time, it actually tells me, why don't you cut yourself short? So, the real flow, the real content has to be brought down, and you have to manage. Of course, at times it is very difficult. And those speakers who are very much used to technology and who do not have much room for their own traits to be delivered, they find it very inconvenient, my dear friends. But what should they do? How can they overcome all these? There are certain tips in order to overcome these technological deviations or distractions. First is test run. You are going to deliver a presentation, please check beforehand, not at your home, but to the venue also you should ensure that everything is in order. So, please run your own slides or whatsoever. As a public speaker, you must arrive earlier, beforehand, and make a test run for the presentation and ensure that everything is in order. Last moment nervousness is very harmful. Also check the sound. That is why every now and then when I come to deliver this talk, my sound is being checked, whether I am audible, whether the voice is coming clearer, fine, so that the audience members may not have any inconvenience. So, ensure that voice is channelized, loud and clear. In case there are certain impediments in the form of noises coming, let that be checked beforehand. That is why time and again speakers are made aware, even students are made aware in the classroom, and you always might have seen the teachers saying, can you please switch off your cell phones for a few minutes, fine. Sometimes you may have to face unruly audience members, fine, and it is always better. Why they become unruly? Because sometimes this sort of behavior actually affects others. If somebody's phone rings in and between the talk, the others also are ignited, and they also. But then as a speaker, you have the control button with yourself. One must also see the setting of the room as to how technology has been installed there, where and one should also see the place from where you are going to speak, the podium, fine. You must see how you are accessible to the audience members, and if you feel that there are certain difficulties, you can request the host to comply or to create a sort of comfortable situation for you as a speaker. And then audio visuals, we shall have a detailed discussion on how audio visuals can be used. But a speaker should try to create a proper blend between what he is going to tell them, what he is going to convey them, and what sort of AV or audio visual aids he is going to provide to his audience members. Now, we can also talk a little bit about public speaking from some online platforms, fine, because digressing from the face to face or digital oratory or online public speaking, which is actually, as Lind said, thesis driven. I have already discussed that it is very much regulated. No scope for the speaker to have his or her own imagination or his or her own space. Vocal embodied public address that is housed within new media platforms. So, it is better that the speaker becomes well organized, reasoned, and if the speaker is expected to speak with the help of teleprompter or PPT or whatsoever, he should actually ensure that he is thoroughly prepared. There are actually 3 digital oratory roles to be played, and what are they? You must know purpose, the purpose of speaking. Am I going to inform? We have already discussed the 3 purposes: to inform, to entertain, fine. So, what is the purpose of this talk or the speech? If you realize that, perhaps you will be able to adjust accordingly. Synchronicity, what sort of people? Sometimes the crowd is a mixed one. What sort of audience members? People of all levels, all ages, all cultures, all religions, all beliefs, whatsoever. Now, when you go for a virtual meeting, it may be in the form of a webinar, it may be a live streaming, it may be virtual meeting. So, in that condition, you are having a sort of digital oratory, my dear friends. So, in virtual meetings, the very first thing one should take care of is one should feel himself quite comfortable, and one should have a sort of responsibility. Passion is essential. You cannot bring a sort of stolid expressions, because even though you are speaking, you are being seen. So, passion is especially important. So, those people who want to prove themselves as an excellent public speaker should see that in his or her talk there is passion, and then one should have a sort of voice modulation. So, we will discuss further when we go to the non-verbal section, and we stress much on what is expected of voice modulation, meaning thereby how you can raise, lower, neutralize, generalize, how you can situate, silence, pauses, all these, because all these actually play a very important role in making your talk enlivening, encouraging, fine. And then, as I have already said, you will settle or set up all your equipments beforehand and decide which platform you are going to use. At times it has so happened that people have accepted the invitation without checking, fine, on which platform they are going to speak, because every app has some amount of limitation. Are you speaking on YouTube, or are you speaking on MS Teams? Are you speaking on Google Meets? So, you must be conversant with all these things. Test run, as I said, is very important, because now you are going to provide a sort of live streaming of your talk. One, you might have already come across several webinars. So, webinars have become quite commonplace nowadays, and through webinars not only are we educating, not only we are promoting, not only are we demonstrating some products, some policies, but we are also generating a sort of lead for the business if we are in some of them. Of course, in academic purposes, webinars have become quite important nowadays. I remember in the last 2 years, I delivered several talks and webinars, and I also listened to several webinars where I could distinguish how it is to make oneself a better speaker during webinars, because in webinars you have several limitations and there are more people in webinar who are ready to talk than less people who are there to listen. What are actually the challenges? The challenges are, one has to, if we look from the point of view of career, one has to become conversant, because a technological knowledge, or one who is to be conversant with technology, one looks for one's career's advancement. The more you are conversant with, the more you are familiar with, you are going to be more confident and you are going to be more successful, because you have a lot of other things at your disposal which go to enhance your communication skills. The challenges that are there, limitations we have already talked about. Of course, we do not have interpersonal communication. It is always one way, and that is actually one of the greatest impediments of this online communication, online teaching, online speaking. There is opportunity, every possibility is there that the crowd will be distracted, and if the crowd is distracted, as I have already said, you become a good speaker only because of good audience. So, there has to be, and in order to do that, one should actually try to make oneself aware of all these realities. My dear friends, one reality and one truth which cannot be ignored is that in the days to come you cannot survive without technology, and you have to encourage yourself and prepare yourself with all these technological aids in order to face the brutalities, the cruelties, the challenges, if you really want to harvest something better. With this, we come to the end of this talk, but before that, let me take a quote which says, "Let thy speech be better than silence, or be silent." As a public speaker, you have to speak, but also ensure that your silence also speaks. Your pauses also lend meaning to the words that you have uttered. Thank you very much. Have a good day.